The past few years have been a wild ride for archaeology, and yes, we mean that quite literally. From remote deserts to city construction sites, archaeologists have been digging deep, and what they're unearthing is nothing short of phenomenal. Despite centuries of research, the story of our ancestors is far from complete. In fact, the deeper we dig, the more questions we uncover. These 15 discoveries aren't just amazing, they rival the greatest finds in history. Each one adds a new piece to the puzzle of who we are, where we came from, and how much more there is still to uncover. Let's start off with Number Quince, Lost Pharaoh Sip's Chest. In early 2020, a Polish team combing through ruins in Deir el-Bahari stumbled upon something no one was expecting, a 3,500-year-old treasure chest, hidden in plain sight among the rubble. It's a modest box, barely over a foot across, but its contents screamed of royalty. Inside, the archaeologists found carefully wrapped golden trinkets, a fossilized goose egg, and even the remains of a sacrificed goose. All of it is wrapped and arranged with purpose. But the real twist, an inscription ties the chest to the elusive pharaoh Thutmose II, whose tomb has never been found. The box appears to be part of a ritual deposit, placed intentionally, either as an offering or a marker. The presence of such a detailed and personal item has led experts to believe his tomb may be nearby. The site, originally mistaken for part of Queen Hatshepsut's temple, might now hold the key to a mystery that has baffled Egyptologists for decades. And that little box might be the first breadcrumb. Number 14. Titanosaur Discovery. In the windswept desert of Patagonia, Argentina, a farmer stumbled across a find that rewrote size records in 2014. Embedded in the dirt were the thigh bones of a creature so large it barely seemed real. The titanosaur, as it was later named, is believed to have measured 130 feet in length and stood over 60 feet tall. Based on bone density and scale, this gentle herbivore would have weighed nearly 80 tons, heavier than 14 elephants combined. The fossils date back to the late Cretaceous, around 100 million years ago, a time when South America was teeming with giants. Despite its size, this dinosaur wasn't a predator. Its massive frame supported a plant-eating lifestyle, roaming vast plains in search of vegetation. The discovery wasn't just about breaking records, it filled gaps in our understanding of sauropod evolution and regional ecosystems. Finding such a colossal specimen in such complete form gave researchers a rare opportunity to reconstruct how one of Earth's true titans once lived and moved. Number 13. Mayan writing origins. In a lush pocket of southern Guatemala lies the site of Tacalic-Abag, an ancient city that quietly shaped the course of written history. Archaeologists working there in 2018 uncovered a stone slab, Stela 87, etched with what might be one of the earliest examples of Mayan hieroglyphic script. This wasn't the refined language later carved into palace walls. It was an early experiment, symbols, lines, and abstract shapes transitioning toward fully formed writing. Experts believe the stela dates back around 2,000 years and carries the name and titles of a local king. What's remarkable is that this location bridges the Olmec and Mayan civilizations, suggesting a blending of traditions that gave birth to Mesoamerica's complex writing systems. Many of the inscriptions are still being deciphered, offering clues not just to linguistics, but to power, religion, and early governance. Tacalic-Abag isn't just an archaeological site. It's been called a laboratory of literacy, where ancient minds pushed the boundaries of communication one symbol at a time. Number 12. Aztec Courts. In 2017, archaeologists in Atongo, Mexico, thought they were digging through a public gathering space, maybe a theater, maybe a plaza. But by 2019, they realized they'd stumbled onto something older and way more energetic, a pair of ancient Mesoamerican ball courts. Made from stone and partially surrounded by raised mounds for spectators, these courts date back to around 1375 BCE. That pushes their origin back further than any others found so far, possibly marking the birthplace of the game itself. The sport was brutal and sacred. something like a mix of racquetball and ritual, wildly popular among the Aztecs and Mayas. Games weren't just for fun. They carried political and religious weight. Burnt wood found around the site shows these courts were in use for nearly 200 years. This wasn't a one-off, it was a hub of culture, sweat, and ceremony. The rediscovery of these courts doesn't just change the timeline, it rewrites the origin story of an entire sport and its impact on civilization. What do you think about it? Let us know. Number 11. Ancient Ivory Factory. At the ancient port city of Banbor in Pakistan, archaeologists uncovered something massive in early 2020, not a shipwreck, not treasure, but an industrial-scale ivory workshop dating back over 2,000 years. More than 100 pounds of ivory shards have been found so far, remnants of a once booming trade that likely reached across the ancient world. This wasn't a side hustle, it was an operation. Workers carved tusks, made intricate items, and dumped their scraps into heaps. And here's the kicker. These fragments are just the leftovers. The real exports, the polished goods, are long gone, traded far and wide. What makes this even more extraordinary is that it's the only known major ivory workshop on the Indian subcontinent. The city itself was abandoned sometime in the 12th century, but no one knows why. All that remains is the ivory debris, whispers of artisans, and a booming industry that thrived where now there is only dust and memory. Number 10. Cultic Pit of Girsu. In the ruins of ancient Girsu, within modern-day Iraq, archaeologists in 2020 unearthed a 5,000-year-old sacred area filled with the remnants of ancient rituals. At the heart of this site lies a deep ceremonial pit known as a favissa, where the remains of sacrificial animals, mostly sheep and goats, were placed. This wasn't a quiet space for solemn reflection, it was where feasts, sacrifices, and fire-lit dances took place in honor of Ningirsu, the Sumerian god of war and agriculture. Scattered around the area, hundreds of clay vessels, drinking cups, and animal bones were recovered, many bearing knife marks indicating ceremonial slaughter. The most surprising find, however, was a bronze figurine shaped like a duck, its eyes made of shell. Though its purpose remains unclear, it may have been linked to Nanshi, the goddess of water and birds. This small object, seemingly out of place, adds a curious twist to the site, a whisper from a belief system more layered than we can fully grasp. Number 9. The 140-million-year-old dinosaur bone. Now this is awesome. In the wine-rich soil near Bordeaux, France, a colossal femur emerged from the ground, 6.5 feet long, nearly 900 pounds and over 140 million years old. Found near the village of Anji-Charente, this massive thigh bone likely belonged to a sauropod, one of the largest dinosaurs to ever walk the earth. Peaceful giants that reached up to 60 feet tall, sauropods ruled their domain long before humans were even a concept. The bone was discovered during a long-running excavation that's been going on for more than a decade, but this find stole the show. Because it was uncovered in isolation, scientists can't identify the exact species, but its sheer size speaks for itself. It had been hiding just beneath the vineyards for eons, waiting for someone to dig it out of deep time. The site still holds secrets, and if this is any sign of what's left underground, excavations could go on for years and keep surprising us. Number 8. Ancient Seawall. Along the northern coast of Israel, just under the waves, lies something great. A 7,000-year-old seawall built by Neolithic hands. It stretches over 300 feet and is made from boulders weighing more than a ton each. These weren't just rolled in from nearby, they were moved, placed, and aligned with a clear purpose to protect a coastal village from the relentless rise of the Mediterranean Sea. The wall was hidden under layers of sand and sediment for millennia, only revealed after storms between 2012 and 2015 shifted the seabed. Once the wall gave way, the village behind it didn't stand a chance, swallowed by the water that finally broke through. It's a powerful reminder that rising seas aren't a modern problem. Thousands of years ago, people were already fighting the same battle. This ancient engineering effort speaks to their ingenuity and desperation, trying to hold back something as unstoppable as the ocean with nothing but boulders and willpower. Number 7. Jurassic Pod. On a chilly February morning in 2019, fossil hunter Aaron Smith was combing Sandsend Beach in Yorkshire when he picked up what looked like a rusty cannonball. It shimmered faintly, coated in iron pyrite fool's gold. Intrigued, he brought it home. Only after polishing it did he realize the orb could be split open. Inside, a perfectly coiled fossil of a cephalopod that swam 185 million years ago during the Jurassic period. These creatures, ancestors of squids and octopuses, rarely fossilized due to their soft bodies, but this one had been encased in just the right limestone conditions to preserve its spiral form in stunning detail. Fossils this well preserved are almost unheard of, especially for a species that lacked hard shells. It's a palm-sized glimpse into a vanished world, a moment of marine life frozen in time. For all the science that followed, it started as a beach walk and a lucky find and ended in one of the best preserved Jurassic relics ever found. Number 6. Ice Age Relic. Deep in the frost-bitten earth of Russia lies a circle made entirely from mammoth bones, tusks, skulls, and shattered remains of beasts that once roamed the Ice Age wilderness. 40 feet across, the site known as Kostenki 11 isn't a random scatter of carcasses, it's deliberate. Someone placed them there. And not just one or two mammoths, at least 60. Picture that ancient people dragging those massive remains across the land and arranging them with care. For what? A ritual? A warning? A freezer for meat in the permafrost? The structure is over 25,000 years old, but it was only unearthed in 2014. Despite all our theories, no one truly knows the why behind it. It's like opening a history book with no text, just a haunting photograph. The bones are still frozen in place, silent and mysterious, daring us to guess what kind of world these people lived in, and what was so important that it needed to be remembered in stone and bone. Number 5. The Warrior Grave on Lolland Island. The site on Lolland had been catalogued as Viking, a routine burial ground. Then came one grave that didn't follow the pattern. Inside wasn't a bearded warrior or a familiar weapon. It was a woman, buried with a Slavic-style axe nearly as long as her own torso. That detail alone forced a re-evaluation. Slavic graves didn't usually appear here. Female warriors were rare, doubted by many historians. And yet here she was, placed deliberately, with care and purpose. Her grave chamber reflected Slavic funerary traditions, not Viking. This wasn't a case of looting or mixing, it was identity. It suggested that Slavic fighters had moved through Viking territory, not just as raiders, but as warriors capable of commanding respect, even in death. The island became her resting place, not by mistake, but because it's where she likely fell. This wasn't a myth, it wasn't a legend misread. It was physical, in stone and soil. One grave challenged centuries of assumptions without needing to say a single word. Alright guys, now let's move to number 4. The tiny monkey fossil from the Amazon. On the southern edge of Peru, near the banks of the Rio Alto Madre de Dios, scientists sifted through over a ton of sediment. They weren't searching for anything this specific. But inside that mass of stone and silt, they found a single tooth, no bigger than a grain of rice. That fragment turned out to be from the smallest monkey species ever identified. Not just small by comparison, hamster-sized, 18 million years old, this primate had been lost to time, squeezed between known fossil records that had a huge gap. The species has been named Parvimico materde, meaning tiny monkey from the Mother of God River. There's no full skeleton, no dramatic illustration, just that one fragile clue. But it fills a hole in the evolutionary tree. For researchers, it's not about how complete the find is, it's about how precisely it fits. In the deepest parts of the rainforest, buried beneath uncounted layers, something this small still managed to leave behind a trace that reshapes everything. Number 3. The Triceratops skull in the Badlands. Harrison Duran wasn't out to make history. He was a 23-year-old student helping with a dig in North Dakota's Badlands, thinking it'd be a decent summer job. He wasn't expecting anything more than dusty rock and maybe a few fossil fragments. Then came the shape, partially visible, sun-baked, mistaken at first for wood. But it wasn't wood. It was bone. Massive, curved, and unmistakable once the dirt was cleared. A Triceratops skull, nearly intact, was buried for 65 million years. They named it Alice. She wasn't just a rare specimen. She was a time capsule, sealed beneath soil for longer than any human structure has existed. This wasn't a polished museum piece. It was real, heavy, delicate, ancient, and still in the process of revealing what it holds. Duran's childhood fascination with dinosaurs wasn't a phase. It came full circle, buried under layers of fate and sediment. The find wasn't part of some grand expedition. It was a reminder that some of the biggest stories begin when nobody's looking for them. Number 2. The Christian letter from Roman Egypt. Written around 300 CE in Roman-controlled Egypt, the letter from a man named Arianus to his brother Paulus doesn't start with fire and brimstone. It's domestic. A mention of their parents' health. A small request for fish liver sauce. But then, tucked into the final line, is a phrase drawn directly from early Christian liturgy: "I pray you farewell in the Lord." That one sentence shifts the entire document. Before this discovery, historians believed early Christians in Roman Egypt lived on the fringe, isolated, marginalized, hidden. Yet Arianus and Paulus appear to have held positions as public officials. The parchment isn't tattered, scrawled in fear. It's composed routine and written without hesitation. This wasn't a man in exile. This was someone living, believing, and communicating in the open. The letter didn't preach. It simply existed, calmly, clearly, in ink and habit. It remains the earliest known Christian correspondence in history. Not grand, not defiant, just ordinary, and that's exactly what makes it so powerful. Number 1. The Gandhara Scroll. Among the dry hills of Afghanistan, tucked into the earth like a forgotten whisper, archaeologists unearthed something extraordinary. A nearly 2000-year-old scroll from the ancient region of Gandhara. Written in a delicate hand on strips of birch bark, the scroll contains early Buddhist teachings attributed to Shakyamuni Buddha. What makes this scroll priceless isn't just its age, it's its near-complete condition. Most finds from this period are fragmentary at best. This one, around 80% intact. It includes vivid details about the lives of the 13 Buddhas who came before Shakyamuni, offering insights untouched by centuries of reinterpretation. The scroll was discovered on a hillside soon to be mined by a Chinese company, meaning it was pulled from the ground just in time. Too fragile for display, it took years just to unwind without destroying it. But it's now been digitized, preserved through technology, so the world can study what's likely one of the oldest surviving Buddhist manuscripts ever found. Well, hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, like and subscribe. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you soon in the next one.